Greetings, it's your buddy, your pal, your friend, your teacher, your guide, ABW. And living in the times that we're in, we're going to see an unprecedented amount of criminality going on. We know we've been through the phase and the wave of scamming. Um, some people say scamming is dead. Scamming will never die. But it won't be at the level that it was because a lot of people just caught a wave with the scamming and things like that. Some people say drug dealing is dead. Drug dealing will never go away. People will always have their vices. It's just again, some people caught a wave. Prices were up and inventory was up. Um, Now prices are down. If you know about don't ask me how I know about the black market, the underground market. It's just I'm a nerd. I know about a lot of things. Okay, and uh, drugs will never go away, but it's the time going back to the time for like in the stock market. I'm involved in the stock market. There was a time when there was a season for a time when everybody was jumping on stocks and seemed to be making money left and right, and certain environments breed that type of activity. But when those waves end, which they always do, that just the ebb and flow, um, the ones who last are what you would categorize as real in that, or at least if they're not real, you make yourself real by staying in the game and weathering those hard times. So the real scammers are the ones who are still active. I have no judgment one way or another. However you get it, just always my thing is because I don't attach any type of morality to um, people's behaviors. Far be it for me to judge because I've been involved in all types of levels of activities, good, bad, indifferent, whatever. People find themselves in whatever situation, and my prayer is always that there's a passage in the Bible that says, "Bless me so that I don't have to stoop to those type of levels." I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what it says. He has the psalmist asked the Lord to bless him so that he doesn't have to resort to those lower forms of nature, as you may call them. So that is always my prayer because I I'm not above criminality. I'll say that. Just knowing my nature, I consider myself a man of God. I consider myself a good man. But given the situation, given my circumstances, I will do what is necessary to feed myself and my family. And that's just a fact. And so, um, what I'm saying is, the people who are real, or at least have the endurance to go through those bumps, they're the ones who are still in the game. The real scammers, the real drug dealers, the real hustlers, the real stock pickers, or stock options players, the real hustlers, real P's out there. And that's really what I was getting to is that the price or well, I don't know about prices, but the activity of whoredom, of whoring, of what some would say is the oldest profession, the pimp and prostitute, the prostitute and the pimp, is going to go at an all-time high. That activity, we know we're already entrenched in a recession, and it's only going to get worse. I'm not here to talk economics, just here to talk reality. Um, and again, no judgment, but one of the most basic tools, assets, and activities that go on is selling pussy. Okay, and women know that, and there are going to be legions of women that resort to that basic primitive activity to survive. And There's different levels of it. Some of them will do it in a way to where they justify it to themselves that they're not prostitutes, they're not whores, but in all actuality, that if there's an exchange of money for sex, call it whatever you want. But again, that activity is not going anywhere. And so, on the flip side of that, there's going to be, for lack of a better term, opportunities. Let me do this intro real quick. There's going to be opportunities, so to say. There's going to be segues. There's going to be enlightenment for some young men. Entryways to see themselves benefiting and profiting off the facilitating of sex. And by definition, that would make you, in that situation, a pimp. And so, you know me, I'm very careful and sensitive to titles. Myself, I don't consider myself a pimp. When I was young, it's funny, man. My favorite rapper was Pimp C. Growing up, all the way from high school. When not growing up, but yeah, probably as early as like 9th, 10th grade. Pimp C was my favorite rapper. Just still to this day, he's my favorite rap character of all time. Him and Tupac. My favorite rap characters are Pimp C and Tupac. And I'm a Texas boy, so there's regional bias to that. But adopting that character or emulating that character or looking up to that character of Pimp C. And I love Too Short too, for that matter. And I love Sugar Free for that matter. I discovered Sugar Free early, a long time ago. I discovered Sugar Free a long time ago, and I always prided myself like with music being different. I had some principles and game about me early on that I just it came natural, and then it was cultivated by my learning, by my pursuit of knowledge. Going back to Pimp C being my favorite rapper, man, I would always call myself a pimp. Again, I'm sensitive to titles. I'm sensitive to the words that you speak. And it's crazy looking back how all through high school I'd always be like, I'm a pimp. And in high school, I wasn't just that dude, I would say, because it was a breeding. But my high school was just a breeding ground for pimps, macks, and hustlers, man. And, some of the world's most, some of the, at least the city's most infamous pimps, macks, and hustlers came from my school. We just fellowship together and just chop game. So I wasn't just that dude, but I had my way as far as females and stuff like that. But it's funny how I found myself after a certain amount of time, without even realizing it, after calling myself pimps for so long. And I went through some early struggle. I went through some ups and downs early. So by the time I'm out the house 17 years old. I've always been about getting my paper, man. And once I got my paper, and once I just couldn't. I love my mama to death. I just couldn't stay in the house, so I got out as soon as I could. As soon as I got me a little paper, and I don't fault anybody who stays home, especially nowadays. It ain't like I paid my first apartment. I was paying $385 a month, so it's hard. It's not as easy for kids these days. And I would advise you, stay home as long as you can, stack your paper. But I had to get out. I had to get from out up under my parents' roof. and it just made our relationship that much better once I was gone. But I knocked my head a lot, man, and so um, I found myself not a lot of failures by the time I'm 19, 20, 21, which is good, which was good. It worked to my benefit. It helped me care. It built my character. But I found myself, to make a long story short, I found myself after calling myself a pimp for so long and really being innocent in what I was saying. I was really just a gigolo, really just a player. But I did find myself in actual pimp situations. And again, if you assume a virtue long enough, it's going to become a reality. And without even realizing it, I found myself in the company of females who sought my management and counsel, much like a pimp. By this time, I had stopped. I never, I would always call myself a pimp. What I'm saying is, I would call myself a pimp just in jest, in passing, casually. I never really just internally felt like I was a pimp because I knew actual pimps. I met actual pimps early on. One of my early mentors was a real old school pimp. He's actually from Louisiana, but he was cross country ready. He was a real P, and he chopped game with Don Juan and uh, Seymour. He was really real with it, and then he became a man of the cloth too, which is funny because that's those professions are always associated with each other in a lot of ways, and he was a real mentor to me. But anyway, uh, I found myself in these situations, man, and it's just funny looking back, the lessons that I learned and how it wasn't something I necessarily was looking for. They say the game chooses you. And the game at that point truly chose me. My first bitch, she was beautiful, man. She was mysterious. I still wonder about her to this day, man. I hope she ain't, you know, made that transition to the other side, which I wouldn't be surprised. Just her, who she was, man. And as an aside, I don't know where I'm going with this. I apologize, man. I got a lesson in this. She she was kind of typical as far as what people associate with hoes. She was her backstory was kind of traumatic. The whole molestation, abandonment, all that foster care, and that whole story. That was part of her makeup. But she was a man, but she was a hell of a female, man, and she taught me a lot of games. She chose me, She put me onto the game as far as like really put me onto the game, like uh, how to really check a trap and really how to put it down and not know on no gorilla shit. I've never ever hit a play put my hands on a female. Never had to, dog. Get a little aggressive with them, uh, and just exerting or asserting yourself as your God-given right, really, or ability to be dominant. That's a given. That's understood as a man to have your dominance. But with great power comes great responsibility. If you don't have to yield your power because it's already there. It's unspoken. So if you're being of the highest character and behavior are that you know yourself, that is inside of you, you don't have to. It won't even have to be challenged. It won't have to be. It's just understood. But now she taught me a lot, man. And in these times, going back, bringing it back full circle, what I was talking about. In these times, man, is going to go back, or it's going to heighten the level of activity of prostitution and pimping as a result. I know things have changed. Things are so much different than when I was dibbling and dabbling. Again, I dibbled and dabbled. That's why I won't ever disrespect um, real pimps. That's what I was referring to with my mentor. I would never call myself a real pimp because I was able to be exposed to real professional pimps. And I wouldn't, I played basketball. I consider myself a hooper, but I wouldn't disrespect and really, call myself a basketball player. I'm not a real professional basketball player. I wouldn't call myself a real pimp, except in jest, and except, kind of just passively. Because that's a real lifestyle. That's a real underworld. That's a real culture into itself. That if you don't understand, you don't want to disrespect. And that again, that's not putting no type of morality attached to it. That goes for any type of profession where people take their craft seriously, no matter what. There are certain things where people take their craft seriously. They put in the work. They put in the blood, sweat, and tears, sacrifices. Because nothing that you do can you just jump in and expect to get instant gratification. And now there is a thing for as beginner's luck, which is what I kind of experienced, but I got beginner's luck and I got out before I could really experience the pain. Or I did experience the pain, and it made me like, it's not for me. Like I for an example with this first bitch that chose me, she put me on game, and then she brought in, just by natural law of attraction, man. I found myself. I looked up in a matter of 2-3 months, and I remember just having this moment of clarity riding in my car, picking them up around 7 in the morning. I remember I dropped them off. I was working at a hotel, still working my job. She worked at the job too, but then she eventually quit. And that's how we met. And I remember dropping them off at a certain place. You could call it the blade, the track, whatever. I never, and that's why I don't call myself a pimp, because I never just got into the vernacular like that. I just did what needed to be done. I dropped these what ended up being these three ladies. I call them three hoes, three bitches, whatever. I dropped them off at their place of profession, and then picked them up around 7 in the morning. And I remember just not really just having a presence of mind, just doing it, right, just going through the motions. And I remember just having a moment of clarity. Sometimes there are times and whenever you have recollections that just stick out in your mind, just having a real moment of of awareness, or having a real moment of mindfulness, a state of being. And I remember picking them up, still a little blurry eyed. It's like 7 in the morning, and just hearing them talk and hearing them, and giving them me sitting there in the car counting this bread. Probably about, it wasn't a whole lot. I'm not gonna sit here, and I won't embellish nothing. I'm sitting there probably counting maybe about 1,500 that night, which is I think that might have been my biggest trap probably at that time. And I remember just having a moment of clarity, like, damn, this shit is real. This shit is real. And them talking and telling their little stories. And I remember the one in the back. She said, "Where are we going to eat, Daddy?" And yeah, it was a moment, man. And then it didn't last. There was some. I was, we one of them got robbed. I won't go into the full details. Maybe I'll talk about that. I probably should put up a Patreon where I could talk about this stuff in depth, or you can ask me questions. But yeah, we went through some struggles. But just things happen, man. Circumstances happening, man. That was so long ago. I can't even recollect a lot of it. Some of it, a lot of it was just mindless. But not to digress and not to babble on, man. This activity is going to. It will never go anywhere. It's never gone anywhere, and it's going to make a resurgence as far as pimping and whoring. So for you guys who are looking for the entry way into that life, understand that there are lessons to be learned. And for those who aren't looking to an entryway into that life, understand that it still reflects the fringes always make their way into mainstream is what I'm saying. You may not find yourself with a woman who's a prostitute, but you're gonna find yourself dealing with women who behave in a lot of ways, who take on prostitute characteristics, and you need to know how to deal with that. You need to know how to to move accordingly. You need to know how to. One thing about being a P is standing on having your boundaries and not reneging on that. Being able to stand firm. I think the vernacular a lot of pimps will use is stomp down on a bitch. And that's not physically. It can be. I mean, if that's I don't agree with that. I just don't believe in violence, whether it be for men or women. That's I will throw hands with a nigga if I got to. Need be, I will. I mean, I like to fight. I used to like to fight. It was never a thing for me to throw hands with somebody. But that's not my first line of action. But the thing about being a P, man, you do what's necessary, and P is a master of emotions, controlling their own emotions. Again, not to reveal too much, but dealing with finding myself in situations where I'm dealing with people who are very dangerous as far as what they could accomplish, the extent of their wrath and their power that they could accomplish. You have to be able to have your poker face. Master your poker face. Say less. Usually, a good tactic is usually to say less. Say enough that's necessary, but say less. And pimps are known for their speech and their talk, but most of the time it only comes in spurts. It comes in waves. It comes to where it's for a purpose. Otherwise, you don't say more than what's necessary, and you say something that has purpose, and you say something that is compelling, and then you say less. You don't have to say too much, because when you begin to talk too much, which I'm probably doing right now, you begin to reveal way more than you intended to. So the moral of the story is pussy selling is going to be at an all-time high, and women who you never thought of as prostitutes, they will engage in their own form of prostitution, and you need to act accordingly, man. You need to or just don't engage at all. Now is the time more than ever for you to get focused. If you're not prepared for women's game, now is more than time than ever to put your head down and learn. Become a man of aptitude, charm, and knowledge. So some books to read. I'll give you. I'll just leave you with that. Some books to read are Pimp by Iceberg Slim. That's an all-time class. That's a given. And again, like my uncle told me, extract the lessons from it as far as emotion, emotional intelligence, and relational intelligence, interactions with female male dynamics. Extract the lessons in that way, not just the practice of pimping, because in that form it's not dead, but it's different. At my time there wasn't Craigslist like that. The laws were different. Um, Human trafficking it carries a serious penalty. Back then it was pandering. I got picked up my very first arrest. I'm not, I don't have an extensive criminal history or arrest record, I'd say. My first arrest was for pandering, and I was out that same night. It actually didn't stick. I was arrested for it, but I wasn't charged with anything. But that was my first time being arrested. I was accused of pandering, and it just, the fact that I was arrested, put in handcuffs, and wasn't booked. They just kind of kept me. It's almost like It's almost like they would do a person who was arrested for disorderly conduct. If you're drunk out in public, they just put you in the holding tank and then let you go. It's kind of like that. It was a situation with me. The girl was fast talking. She got up out of there. I got up out of there, and that's what it was. But get your knowledge up. Get your charm up. Read a book that I recommend is Casanova. The biography of Casanova. It's by Derek Parker, and I'll probably leave a link to it, or you can if you just hit me and I'll show you the book, and I'll send you the link like on Amazon. Hook me up with a little affiliate commission. I'd appreciate it. Another book that I recommend is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And just get your knowledge up, man. I have a whole library of books, and it depending on what your goals are in life, man. I probably got a book that can help you. The Bible is always a great book to read. We'll talk about that, but yeah, man, hit me for consultations, man. We can really chop it up, and I got a lot of game to give you in all types of areas. I've lived so many lives. I'm leading so many lives that I'm just here to just talk, man, and spit whatever game I got while I'm here on this earth. So it's your buddy, your pal, your friend, Uncle Artist. Peace and blessings. Sayonara, Shakataki. All right, man.